Good evening, everyone. My name's David, and I am running a session of bite marks this evening. This is a first in a 4-part run. Bite marks is a powered by the apocalypse game of werewolf pack dynamics, which was written by Becky Anderson of Black Armada Games, and after a successful Kickstarter at the beginning of last year, is now available. So if you're interested in that, check it out. I've put a link down in the thing below. And yeah, this game is being run with a bunch of players through the Gauntlet Hangouts calendar. The Gauntlet's an online role-playing game community. We play all sorts of indie games, essentially, from story games through to OSR stuff, and pretty much everything that isn't D&D really, I think is about the long and the short of it. So yeah, we as well as like this calendar for like meeting up and playing games with folk, we have some forums, a series of podcasts, and a monthly zine if you're a member of the Patreon, all of which are very good, worth checking out. Again, you can find more information on that below. We're at gauntlet-rpg.com, so do check that out. And with that said, I'm just going to go around the table quickly and ask everyone to introduce themselves, and then we'll go through. We're actually filming full character creation and stuff today, so this will be a lot of world building and stuff and character creation, but do feel free to watch along if you want. But yeah, I'll just go down in the order I have people on my screen for the moment. So as I said, yeah, my name's David. In case you didn't catch that, I use he, him pronouns. I'm based over here in the UK. And Bethany, if I can ask you to introduce yourself first, please.
Yep. Hi, I'm Bethany. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm in the US, and I play a whole lot of games on the Gauntlet, run a few, occasionally write them.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And Kyle, if I can ask you to introduce yourself next, please.
Yes, I'm Kyle, he, him. Yeah, that's it.
That's fair. Thank you very much. And Brian. I don't seem to be able to hear you, Brian. Is anyone else having that issue, or is it just me?
Yeah, I can't hear either.
Me neither.
Yeah, I don't know if it might be worth just checking in the settings. I know these days we're hopping between different things. It sometimes messes about a bit. Otherwise, it might be worth just giving a quick reload to see if that clears it up.
Okay, change some settings. Did that do it?
Yep, that's perfect. Can hear you now.
Great. Okay, I'm Brian, he, him. I've played a lot on the Gauntlet. Oh, I'm in California. Yeah, played a lot on the Gauntlet. I've only run one game. It was for Gauntlet Con. I ran a game of Scum and Villainy. Other than that, I've only been a player on the Gauntlet so far.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And last but not least, Puckett.
Hi, I'm Puckett, he, him pronouns. I'd like to give a shout out to Bethany's Unincorporated, which is a lot of fun to play. And then Eldritch Love. Kyle, how are you not pimping Eldritch Love? It's a great game. It's awesome and a lot of fun. So there's some people in this game who are being a little modest about what they do.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I will have to check those both out. I haven't had a chance to play either yet. So yeah, as I said, this evening we're going to be playing Bite Marks. I've given a brief spiel on that already, but yeah, the idea is that you'll essentially all be playing members of a werewolf pack. there are various different roles in the different playbooks, which I think some people had some thoughts on which ones they might like to go through already. So we'll just have a quick. In fact, what I will do is I will very briefly introduce each of the playbooks. I won't go into them in huge detail at the moment, mostly because I've been speaking a lot already. Oops, I don't have the PDF open yet. So the first playbook is the Alpha. The Alpha is the leader of the pack. There is always an Alpha in the pack, and one only. Whether that be a PC or an NPC, there will always be an Alpha. Most of the time, in case unless something unfortunate happens. The Alpha is a bit special in the sense that it is possible through one of the mechanics in this game for a player to challenge for the role of Alpha, and if they succeed with that move, then they take on the Alpha skin. And if the Alpha skin was previously held by another player character, then they have to choose a new playbook to. I'm sorry, I'm mixing up my terms here, but they will choose a new playbook to take on. So that's the Alpha. They're all about kind of being in charge, maintaining control of the pack, trying to maintain unity and obedience amongst the rest of the pack. So that's the Alpha. The Cub is the newest member of the pack. Despite the name, they're not necessarily physically younger than the rest of the pack, though they may be. If we can have a chat about that. But yes, they are someone who has only recently become a werewolf. They're still kind of getting used to how to act as a member of the pack, and they also have a bit of kind of grace as a result of that. There is the Enforcer. This is the kind of the strong right arm to the Alpha. It's someone who is willing to throw their weight around, will often use violence, or at least the threat of violence, as currency, essentially, and potentially even like transgress some of the lines of kind of the pack to do what needs to be done. The Fixer is the next playbook. This is somebody who has a stronger connection to the mortal world than the rest of the pack. They are good at navigating the mortal world, getting things done, finding things out, that sort of thing. The Grey Pelt is an elder, essentially. More so than the Cub is necessarily younger. The Grey Pelt is probably older than most of the other members of the pack. They're certainly an experienced werewolf. They have a certain kind of stash of lore that they carry around, and that's sort of that's their big thing. Is having sort of offering counsel and knowledge of werewolf society. Next up is the Howl. The Howl is kind of a spiritual leader within the pack. They are all about the more esoteric side of being a werewolf, stuff that ties into sort of magic and spirituality, that sort of stuff. And finally, the Prodigal. The Prodigal is a member of the pack who, for whatever reason, has left the pack for a time. They've gone out into the world and have just returned. Probably for the sake of this game, because it's always quite a good one. If we do have a Prodigal, it's likely that them returning to the pack will be kind of one of our inciting incidents, sort of thing. Their sort of stuff plays about a lot with not quite belonging in the pack, but also being torn essentially between loyalty to the pack and leaving, that sort of thing. So those are the playbooks. I'm just going to go down I'll just go down in order. I've got people on the screen for the moment, and ask if anyone has any particular preferences or thoughts on playbooks at the moment. So Bethany, I'll start with you again, if that's okay.
Yeah, I like. See, what is it? I think I'm most interested in the Prodigal, but the Howl is also could be interesting. Although there's a whole lot of cannibalism with the Howl, which might be an issue for people.
Yeah, we can dial that in as necessary. But yeah, no, that's cool. Thank you, Bethany. Kyle, and yourself.
I'm interested in the Cub or the Prodigal.
Yeah, awesome. Brian, yourself.
The Grey Pelt and the Fixer both seemed interesting to me.
Awesome. And Puckett.
The other day I was talking in the chat about this before the game. I was looking at the Cub or the Fixer, but after looking into some of those Northern Soul videos, I have an idea about an alpha that might be fairly interesting and trouble creating. So
that sounds perfect. Yeah, if you're willing to go for the alpha, that would be great. So, this is
the only one nobody else has said anything about.
Yeah, it's also funnily enough. I've not actually GM'd for a PC alpha yet, so I would very much look forward to that.
Okay,
but people are too nice. That's a problem.
Yeah, I can fix that.
Excellent. Cool. So with that said, I think the only like Venn diagram thing we've got going on is between Kyle and Bethany. I know you both expressed an interest in the Prodigal. I guess Kyle, are you interested in going Cub, or Bethany for Howl, or some other combination therein?
I think the Cub would work better for me. Did anyone else want the Cub?
No, I don't think so.
Cub it is.
Cool. So yeah, are you cool with the Prodigal then, Bethany?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Excellent.
Just to avoid all of the many issues with the Howl.
That's
that
fair.
does sound cool, but
yeah. No, that's awesome. Brian, free pick between Grey Pelt and Fixer. Sorry, can't help you narrow down the decision there. While people are sort of starting to look at that, I'll just explain kind of the actual mechanical side of character creation. So I'll just work down the character keeper as it is in front of you, because it's easier for me to keep track that way. So obviously, if you in the playbook thing, you should have a little drop down there. You can choose the book you want. You have then some choices for what are called heartbeats. What these are essentially they're little, almost like prompts or character traits, so that sort of thing. If you think of them a bit like keys in Lady Blackbird, it's a similar sort of idea. These are basically little character traits that if you express them or lean on them in a scene, you get to mark a point of experience. Essentially, I'll explain exactly how all that shakes out in a moment. But so yeah, you get to choose 3 of those, and yeah, they're again, those are specific based on your playbook. You get to sort of choose them as you see fit, and obviously, you should be picking ones that you think you're going to be playing into. So that's heartbeats. Some stuff that comes up in game. Yes, so stats. There are 4 stats. Your playbook will tell you what those stats start at, that you then also get to add a +1 to any stat once you've got the ones in from your playbook. The 4 stats are teeth, heart, guts, and feral. Teeth is about your capacity for violence or threatening violence, essentially. It's used for being tough and scary. Heart is your sort of emotional thing. What's the word I'm looking for? Emotional intelligence. I guess it's your ability to connect with people, to read people, all that sort of thing. Guts is sort of combination of like willpower and physical toughness. It's used to kind of keep control and be enduring and strong. And feral is your inherent connection to your wolf nature, essentially. It's how in tune with your own nature and the world around you and stuff like that you are. In particular, it's used for a couple of moves that are about anchoring your sort of wolf senses and your wolf capabilities. So the stronger your feral, the more wolfy you are, essentially.
Quick question about that.
Yeah, certainly.
So I'm looking at the basic moves, and it says harness the wolf is hard. And then in about the middle of that first paragraph, it says roll plus feral.
Oh yes, that is a typo, I think, on the sheet. It should be feral for that.
So harness the wolf is feral.
Yeah, that's correct. Yep. So yeah, the two. I'll actually explain those the two wolf related moves now, just to give you kind of an idea as we're going through this. So
it also says harness the wolf being heart on the actual playbooks.
Yeah. Oh no, yeah. So I do. You. I think you're right. That is. I think it's. No, you are correct. I think that harnessing the wolf is heart, because I said it is on the playbooks as well. I'd always assumed it was a typo the other way around, but no, I think you are correct that it should actually be
given to the wolf and act on instinct is fair, or listed as feral.
Yeah, okay. No, I think that's correct then. That yes, sorry, harness the wolf should be heart. Then yep, that makes sense. No, that's perfect. Yeah. Right. So yeah, harnessing the wolf is heart, which is that is all your essentially. So when you're harnessing the wolf is about using your wolf senses or abilities in some other ways, and it's usually used. It can be used as either a wolf or a human, and that's about kind of finding stuff out about the world through your kind of enhanced senses. The other one, which is give in to the wolf, that is something that you can choose to do when you turn into your wolf form. You're not required to. You can just turn into your wolf form and you are now a wolf. That's fine. But that doesn't give you any. You essentially don't get any mechanical bonuses for being a wolf other than the fact that you are a wolf, unless you use give in to the wolf, which lets you sort of essentially become more feral and become stronger and tougher when you are a wolf. But you're never required. Well, that's not quite true, but there may be circumstances where I will tell you to make that roll. But generally speaking, you that's a choice you make if you want to kind of go that extra step, with obviously the risk that it can go too far, and that's when you get your classic werewolf frenzy thing going on if you fail that roll. So you get to pick two. You get to pick two moves. The exception to that is the alpha, who, well, you still get to pick two moves, but you also start with the state of the pack move. And for the moment, I think that is everything that you need to do in terms of choosing stuff from your playbooks. We'll get onto the things around how you relate to all the other characters. Once all that stuff is done. So I will. I'll give you all a few moments to fill that in. Obviously, if you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to ask. Yeah.
Could you go back over heartbeats really quickly?
Certainly, yeah. So heartbeats, these are essentially when you play into one of your heartbeats in a scene, it allows you to mark XP. It's kind of, like I said, it's a bit like keys in Lady Blackbird or something like that. It's really kind of a prompt for your role play. Essentially, it's kind of reward you for playing into the character. And obviously, each of the heartbeats are kind of unique to that specific character type. So that particular playbook, so it kind of lets you tailor a bit how your particular take on that playbook is. So the way XP works in this, I'll mention that briefly now while people are making choices and stuff. So in this, you have two experience tracks, a human and a wolf path is how they're referred. Each of these goes up to 3. So you in this game, you, unlike many other PTA games, you don't earn XP on failed rolls. There are a number of triggers that cause you to gain XP. One of these is when you play into your one or more of your heartbeats. That can earn you a point of XP. When you essentially share a kind of share an intimate moment or with another member of the pack, that can earn you an XP. We will be, once we get onto setting up the pack in a moment, we'll essentially set up some kind of traditions and culture around the pack. And again, if you play into one of those, that earns you a point of XP. There will also be some playbook moves that can cause you to mark XP as well. Those will come up when they come up. And am I missing one? The specific thing though to be aware of. Oh, that's it. If there's also another. We'll get onto that once we start. Once we start going through character relationships, there is a currency called ties. That you have on other player characters, and specifically it's only other player characters. You never have ties on NPCs. It's only ever on player characters. This works again a bit like sort of strings in Monster Hearts or hacks in history in Apocalypse World. You can have a number of, more like strings in Monster Hearts, I should say, but you can have up to three ties with someone. And you can spend those ties when you're to boost rolls when you're acting, targeting that person. If you would ever gain a 4th tie on somebody, you instead mark a point of XP, and your ties reset to 1. So that's the 4th generic way of gaining XP. the significance of the two tracks, the human and wolf paths, is that when you earn a point of XP, you mark it down on the track depending on what form you were in when you earned it. In order to gain an advance, you need to fill up both the wolf and the human track. So it's basically an incentive to keep, to spend time as a wolf as well as a human. That's what that's in there. I'm mostly happy for you to self-report on those, mostly because I always forget to check in with people like at the end of scenes and stuff to go over and say, oh, I think you hit that and you hit this. The only restriction on the XP is you can only, because essentially the ways you can gain XP are quite generous. The restriction is you can't earn more than 2 XP in one scene. But you don't, like I said, you don't have to necessarily go out of your way to like if you're playing into your heartbeats, you'll be earning XP fairly regularly. Ditto on sort of like camaraderie with your fellow pack members and stuff like that. Excellent. So I think from a quick look over, it looks like everyone is set. Everyone has names. Everyone has picked all their moves and stats by the looks of it. So I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say if we want to take a break to the top of the hour. And if during this time, you said the next thing we will be doing is looking at the relationships between your characters. You'll see, I'll just quickly go over this. You'll see on the character keeper or on the playbooks, depending on where you're looking, that there is a section where it says pack mates, and for each of you will have like one question on here or one prompt. If you want to read through it and start thinking about who, or even not even necessarily thinking about who that might be, but just giving that a bit of a thought. We'll come back in a moment and we'll work through all of those. We'll then go on to our pack creation and looking at the world in general, and then we'll see where we go from there. Cool. So thanks everyone, and I said see you back at 9 o'clock my time. Welcome back, everyone. Cool. So, let's give Brian a moment. But yeah, what we'll do next is I'll just ask everyone to introduce their character briefly, and then we will go through the, as I said, the packmate questions. And answer those. Start building up some of your initial ties. Then we will go on to pack creation. Then we'll see sort of what time we're looking at once we've got pack creation and fleshing out the world and stuff done. We may get a chance to do a little bit of introductory play with the characters. We'll see. We'll play it by ear. I won't try and force it in if not, but we'll see. Okay, I will. Oh, the other thing I will just briefly mention. Obviously, I think people are aware of this. That I've chatted to, but I realize I haven't said it yet since I've been recording. But the setting we're going to be playing in for this game in particular is the early 1970s in a working class suburb of the northern English town of Sheffield, which is coincidentally where I live right now. Well, I say right now, I have done for half my life, but you'll be in the village of Huntersley, up in the north of the city, right near the Don Valley, which is a big industrial area built along the banks of the River Don. It's certainly back in the 70s. It is a huge producer of steel. I mean, it's still a huge producer of steel today. Actually, just these days they don't really employ anyone to do it. So the village you're in is an old pit town. There is a still working coal mine in the village, but you are also part of the wider urban sprawl of Sheffield. One of the touchstones using it for this, how much we're into it, we'll see. But is one of the big things at the moment is kind of the Northern Soul scene is big amongst the youth up in the industrial north, and which is kind of an early forerunner to the sort of to the club scene, focusing around soul music, all night dancing in unlicensed clubs across the region. So we'll possibly see a bit of that as we play, but that is all for later. Right now, I will ask each of you to introduce your characters. So I'll go through in character keeper order. So I'll start with you, Brian, if that's okay.
Sure. I am playing Jax, he, him. He is the fixer. He is connected, charming, and fucking gorgeous, because I just couldn't pass up any character stat where part of it is they're fucking gorgeous. So sure, that was just irresistible to me. And yeah, I do need to figure out what his resources are, because he is connected to two spheres of influence. I think one, unions, the local workers' unions, makes a lot of sense because that's a big part of the setting. But then the other is one of police, politics, celebrity, crime, cyber. I think we're a bit too early for that. Business, academia, social media also doesn't make much sense. Religion, occult, or military. Sure, what's your suggestion? Police? I wasn't thinking police, but
yeah. If there's like another, if you're welcome to sort of write one in if there's something else you think would be cool. But yeah,
I mean, This list seems fun. Is there a particular reason police, or?
Oh yeah.
I mean, I probably lean more towards crime than police, but I did think maybe someone else would have some kind of connection to one of these other.
Crime works too. But
yeah, not business or academia, religion. I'm not that interested. Yeah, I guess I would have thought between like a cult or crime, or maybe police or politics. I guess would have been the ones I was.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, certainly there's definitely. I mean, obviously, so the big union, specifically in the town itself, will be the National Union of Miners around the actual coal mining business. Obviously, there's also like steelworkers unions and stuff down within the city. So I think the union is a strong call for this. So how that could I mean, if you were to go with something like politics, there is obviously. And to an extent still is, though the link's been a bit weakened. The Labour Party in the UK has a long history of being like actively linked with the unions. So that's one potential way. Obviously, police and crime don't necessarily have to be the two don't have to be necessarily linked, but that's certainly how you could cross over into like the politics sphere if you wanted to go that way. But yeah, crime and police, I'm sure you could also find ways of having connection with those. Obviously, so if we're talking like specifically about kind of the Northern Soul scene, I kind of alluded to earlier, there's a lot of the actual running of clubs is, if not outright illegal, often not entirely legal either. It's a bit grey area. It tends to be stuff running in unlicensed venues, and
the drugs associated with the club scene.
Exactly. There's particularly, you said, this sort of area that we're talking a lot of amphetamines, essentially a lot of uppers are sold at these sort of clubs. So that's kind of a natural in for that. But yeah, obviously, this is very much as well at this point, certainly around here, there's still that policing is still very local. It's a good job that the police officers will be working in the town they live in. It's not sort of so there's certainly scope for having links within the police as well. So yeah, I think whichever you'd be most interested in, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think crime seemed like the more obvious pick to me. It seemed like an easy fit. But yeah, I guess unless there was some way it could link to another character's concept, I would just go with crime.
Yeah, sure thing. Yeah, that sounds good. Brilliant. So thank you for that. So yeah, actually, yeah, I'll just drill down. So, do you think that that Jax does sort of work in the mine, or work at the mine, I suppose, not necessarily underground, but or is it more a family connection, do you think, to the unions?
I think there's definitely a family connection.
Yeah.
Whether he currently works in the mine, I don't know. He probably has. At the very least. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's cool. Making some notes while we. Brilliant. Awesome. Thank you for that. And next, Bethany.
Yes, I'm playing Jo Hammond, pronouns she, her. And she's the prodigal. And I think she is one of my favorite kinds of characters to play, which is somebody who is making up for something that they screwed up earlier. I'm not sure exactly what she did. I think I'll decide that after we create the pack and what exactly our taboos are. But she did something that got her kicked out maybe by the previous alpha and is back for some reason.
Awesome. That sounds good. Thank you for that. In her like the human side of her life, what do you think that she does or has been doing? Whether it's
So the move I picked was healing. You're the medic of the pack, so maybe she works at a hospital.
Yep, certainly there are several large hospitals in Sheffield, so they certainly work there. But yeah, do you think she's a medical student or actually like a nurse, like or a doctor for that matter, depending on how old she is? But yeah,
I think nurse.
yeah, cool. Thank you for that. Yeah, next, Kyle, if you'd like to introduce your character.
Yes, I'm playing Fran Flynn, the cub. I'm thinking her dad was like a American soldier who came over either in World War II or during the Cold War. Apparently, there were some American soldiers stationed in Britain during that time.
It's still out to this day. Yep.
Oh. And he stayed in Britain because he was a black man and it was easier there than in the Jim Crow South. And yeah, now she's their kid. Doesn't fit in super well with the mostly white working class people of the neighborhood, but really loves the unlicensed bar soul scene. And I'm thinking she still has some like cousins or something back in America who help her get those rare tracks and stuff that really make her popular.
Excellent. That's great. Awesome. Yeah, thank you. And we'll probably get a bit once we start discussing the pack and our general werewolf mythology. We might come back and see exactly how you joined, but we'll as I said, we'll leave that for the wider discussion on what werewolves are. Thank you. And last but not least, Puckett.
Kyle, it's kind of like you're reading my mind. Puckett, he, him. I am playing Garrett Heath, also he, him, the alpha. And Garrett's story is that he is a laid-off factory worker, about 24, 25 years old, so a little older than the Northern Soul Club scene that you've described. But he also recognizes that there's really no future just punching the clock in a factory, because that isn't even an option right now. I mean, there's lines for those jobs. So he's got an amazing record collection. He's got some dole money coming in, and he's going to try to make a future for himself and the pack, regardless of what he has to do it.
Yeah, that sounds perfect. Thank you very much. Awesome. Perfect. Yes. So that's great. That sounds awesome. So we will go back around to Jax, and I'll ask you to read out your question or series of questions in the Packmate section down at the bottom. I will point out as well.
Yeah.
Oh no, sorry, it's okay. I was just going to say. So the way that these work, the Packmate questions is obviously this will start you out with an initial tie with one other player, or then with a tie on you, I believe mostly, and those will that's essentially a kind of each of these we'll see the one in specific in a moment. Each of these will kind of set up a tension in the pack, and that will be a source of drama, obviously, as well as the mechanical effect it has. But also, essentially, what we'll do is we'll play with these, and when we feel that any particular packmate question has been set up, then that gets resolved, and you can then add a new tension that you want to explore. But again, we'll get onto that once we actually start playing. But just to explain exactly what those are. But yeah, so that said, if you'd like to read yours out, and we'll see.
Why do you feel you want to leave the pack? Which packmate could get you to stay, and why? Why do you want to leave the pack? Yeah, I mean, the why, I don't know that it's that complicated. Just that, it would be a much simpler life to just go live a more human life. I have these connections, and yeah, they're definitely complicated by being a member of this pack, for sure.
Yeah,
I think it's as simple as that.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's as good a motivation as any. And who could convince you to stay?
Who can convince me to stay? I would think it would be our alpha.
Excellent. Yeah, that sounds good. So yeah. Oh, actually, I was going to say, actually, I think that's probably going to stand. We can leave that as is. What we'll actually do. Sorry, I'm just looking through the notes in here, and I think actually it will make sense. We'll probably come back and do these questions after we've actually fleshed out the pack a bit more, just so people have a bit more to latch onto. But yeah, I mean, to be honest, that sounds good as it is. So that's no issue. So that was just me. Getting ahead of myself. So yes, the next thing we will do is we'll generate our pack. So the pack is obviously what binds you all together. We will. I'll probably like branch things out a little bit here and just sort of ask for some general input. But so I guess where I will start us with actually is just talking a little bit about how werewolves work in this world. And so there are a couple of assumptions that are like baked in by the system, essentially, but we can kind of work around. Sorry, we can work around those as we see fit. But yes, so essentially the core assumptions that the game makes about how werewolves work are firstly that as a werewolf you can be a person or you can be a wolf. You are essentially a person who can turn into a wolf, which it sounds very straightforward, but it doesn't go into the whole like the world of darkness, like you have different forms where you're different percentages of wolf and person. You are a wolf or you are a person. Those are your sort of two binary setup. You can, whilst you are in human form, as the movie I've mentioned already, Harness the Wolf, you can sort of draw on your feral wolf nature whilst as a person, but in terms of actual your physical form, you will either be a person or you will be a wolf. So that's the first sort of big assumption it makes. The second is that your ability to change forms is, broadly speaking, something that you can do at will. It's not that you only change form at the full moon. You can switch between being human and wolf more or less at will. There are some circumstances where you can be forced to shift. There may be some situations where you are temporarily unable to shift form, but there's no, you're not. It's not just a kind of you're only a wolf under the light of the full moon. You can kind of choose when you want to be a werewolf. Well, not when you want to be a werewolf, when you want to switch forms. Other than that, we can play fairly. We don't have to nail all of this to the wall now. We'll have space to explore and make decisions as we go through. But I think one of the things I am interested in us kind of talking about now is, as we start forming the pack, is talking about how you become werewolves. Is it like a bloodline thing? Is if your parents are werewolves, are you in turn a werewolf? Is it the classic, if you're bitten by a werewolf, you become a werewolf? If that's the case, is it every time you're bitten by a werewolf you become a werewolf, or does there have to be some kind of additional ceremony or intentionality behind it? And as I said, I'm open to running with this how we'd like. So I guess I'm interested in what you all think about that.
How about yes? I mean, it could be a bloodline thing. It could be an in-group, out-group thing where you basically become like blood brothers almost. So you can, under certain circumstances, ritually initiate someone into the werewolf clan. And maybe it's the case that there are rogue werewolves outside of the pack and they bite people and those people become werewolves, and they can, through time and service, become part of a pack. Kind of like getting, joining a motorcycle club.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Those are all options. Is everyone else cool with going sort of down that sort of route? Awesome. I think that's the most important thing with regards to actual werewolfing, I guess, to take into consideration. Things like, susceptibility to silver, if the full moon has any particular effect over you, unless anyone has any strong opinions on anything they want to do around that, we can just play with that when it comes up. I don't feel that we need to go into detail on that now unless anyone wants to. If they do, that's awesome, and I invite you to do so.
I think it'd be kind of funny if we all got a little bit hairier around the full moon. Maybe I had to shave an extra time or two, but otherwise.
Yeah, it's exactly. It's likely to have an effect. That you might. If we introduce the full moon, I might make you may have to kind of. We'll see if it affects how sort of feral you go and stuff. That would be cool. Awesome. the other thing I just want to, and this, depending on timing and stuff, it's not necessarily something we're going to explore in any detail, but it's something that might come up, which is, I guess, how much other supernatural stuff do people want to be out there? Do we want to go for the fact that like there are probably some vampires and wizards and stuff, or do we want to like keep it like other than like werewolves? It's just people. Does anyone have any preference one way or the other on that? As I say, it's not necessarily going to be a big plot point unless that's something someone's super interested in going into. But
I mean, unless anybody else has a strong opinion, I'd be fine with just werewolves being a thing and leaving vampires and zombies and whatnot and wizards out of it. But that's me.
Yep.
I'd be fine with that too. But...
Seems fine. I mean, I don't necessarily want to say those things don't exist, but they can be so rare that it's just not going to come up.
Yeah, sure thing. We can, if you get a particularly spectacular succession of bad rolls, I might have some other weirdness show up. But that's cool. No, we can just keep it as broadly speaking, just werewolves. One of the things I will be saying, there will almost certainly be some like rival werewolf packs and stuff, but we can, again, we'll detail that sort of stuff out as we go through. Cool. So with that said, I think that gives us an idea on the on what you all are, I suppose. So we'll now have a quick look at the so there will potentially be some other NPC pack mates. Well, not it won't. I don't think your pack's going to be like huge, but there'll probably be a couple of other people. We'll detail those out in a moment. The first question I do want to ask, though, I think I'm going to ask Puckett first. Actually, you said you've only fairly recently taken over leadership of this pack. Who was the alpha before you, and I guess how did you? I'm going to use this in the loosest sense, but how did you inherit the role? Did you inherit it? Were you given the position, or did you take it by force from the previous holder, or some other confluence of events?
Brian, let me know what you think about this. I think I might have been the fixer for the previous alpha, and that alpha actually literally died, but while dying kind of tapped me on the shoulder and said, you need to step up, you need to lead now. So it was something where I was loyal to the previous alpha, to their literal end. And then, I mean, I think this kind of fits in with what Brian was saying about who could convince him to stay, tapped Brian to step up as the fixer.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Does that work with you, Brian?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sounds good.
Awesome. So I will
and let's just give him a Logan Cartwright.
Yep. Cool. Thank you, Logan Cartwright.
Feels like a good werewolfy name.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, actually, I will just ask one final follow-up question on that. You obviously said that they died. Was that was it a natural death of some stripe, or was it a death by violence?
Let's go with not exactly violence, but it was not like mine accident.
Yeah, cool. Accident. Yeah, so I should have said, yeah, was it?
So like a mine cave-in or something like that.
Sure thing.
And they got partway up, but the mine caved in on them, crushed their legs, spine, injuries serious enough that they could squeak out a few things, but not much more. Like when somebody gets caught between a train and the platform.
Yeah.
The train moves. They might be talking, and but it's not a good end.
No, exactly. Yeah, no, that's perfect. Thank you.
Which, of course, I think kind of really hit home on Garrett's drive to get the hell out and do something that is not that.
Yep, that sounds good. Thank you very much. And so this I'm going to ask to to Joe, I suppose, technically. But so what was Logan like as an alpha? Was he, I mean, yeah, in both in personality and in sort of leadership style, how was he?
He had very strong ideas of like what an alpha was supposed to be like, and he lived up to those ideas even when it was the wrong thing to do, like even when it was unnecessarily difficult or like made our lives harder, but like because that was what an alpha was supposed to be like, damn it.
Excellent. Yeah, cool. Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, sort of that very sort of stubborn and yeah, traditional, I suppose, is the word for it. Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, I'm imagining he was probably obviously older than probably the majority of you, but not like, he wasn't like an old man. He wasn't the kind of grizzled, grey bearded, type, because obviously he was still working down the mines and stuff. So he was probably, I guess, maybe in his 40s, late 30s, early 40s, or whatever, when he suffered this accident. I think, yeah, definitely, died before his time, put it that way. But no, that's great. Thank you for that. Awesome. So that's our previous alpha. So they are now out of the picture, though their spectre may still have some effect over our over the pack as a whole. So, because I didn't ask you any questions about the previous alpha, I'm going to come to you first. Kyle, and ask you to sorry, I should say I'm going to ask Fran, outside of the obviously the other player characters, which NPC member of the pack do you know best? And tell us a little bit about them.
NPC pack member. Probably, let's say like the oldest one. How about like I get the sense that we're all in the younger generation. So how about like Someone perhaps even older than the Alpha was before he died. So let's call her, I don't know, Sarah, I guess. And she took it on herself to look after the newbie.
Sure thing. Yep. Yeah, and I think so. Yeah, I think she's kind of yeah. I want to say that she's yeah, an older an older lady, probably not like a super active pack member anymore. You know, she is still part. She hasn't left the pack. She is still part of it, but probably sort of only tends to come along to sort of the whatever gatherings you have, but isn't sort of as active as she used to be. And yeah, that sounds good. In fact, I might even say that she.
How old are we talking about for Sarah? I mean, are we talking middle-aged? Are we talking like a grandmother age, or?
I was. I mean, feel free to suggest otherwise, Kyle, if you want. But I was thinking maybe approaching grandmotherly age. I was thinking maybe even she might have been the previous Alpha's aunt.
How old is grandmotherly age?
I mean, I was sort of thinking maybe early 60s, that sort of late 50s, maybe even. But yeah, not like yeah.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So we've got a pack member, and we could like pop by for tea and biscuits and just like kind of get grandmotherly advice.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's so awesome.
Just realized I muted myself again. So yeah, thank you for that. Cool. And
Does Sarah have a last name?
We will call her let's see. I had a name a second ago and it is gone again. No, I won't use actually because that's too similar to Cartwright. We'll go with I'm just blanking on names.
Turner?
Yeah, Turner's good. Awesome. Thank you. And then Brian, I'm going to ask which who's the like the NPC in the pack who you've recently had a falling out with, and tell us a little bit about them and perhaps the source of the aggravation between you.
Someone Okay, let me think out loud instead of just sitting here somewhere. I'm thinking there's someone. They were more upset about strict following of the letter of the law as far as whatever our customs or traditions are, whereas our alpha was maybe like, as long as like you have a good reason, the following the spirit of the law is more important. But this person thought I was bending things too far. Because I was letting my human obligations interfere too much. What are those traditions? What was I not showing up for, or that I don't know.
Maybe some kind of pack council or pack meeting or pack conclave or a pack hunt or.
Yeah, I mean, some kind of get together that either I was showing up late or leaving early, and I'm like, look, I was here for the important part, but I have to go. And Alpha was like, all right, try not to make a habit of it, but whatever. And they were just like, no, it's from sun up to sun up. That's the way it is. What are you talking about?
Sure
like,
thing.
Well, I mean, I would if I could, but I was here for the hunt, for the whatever. But who's this person?
I mean, I tapped you to be the fixer because I know you're going to show up when it really counts. But Terry was always kind of a dick. I don't know if it was Terry or not, but.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm wondering actually, maybe it's someone who was maybe someone who was a bit closer to the previous alpha, possibly someone else who worked down the mine with him, and that might be why he didn't think you were showing proper respect, and is maybe a bit put out that you appear to be more in the trust of the current alpha. Yeah, and I'm going to steal that name from Puckett, and we'll call him Terry Davenport, I think. Awesome. Thank you. Right, now the next bit we are going to get onto, because I think that's only give us a start for NPCs. We may introduce some additional ones in time as we go through this, but that will be our kind of start for 10. The next bit we're going to do is we're going to have a look at the pack tab on the character keeper. So there's two things that we're going to look at now. The first of these is our pack culture. So what we're going to do here is want to come up with about 5 slang words that the pack uses to refer to things specifically. Often it will be stuff that is specifically, werewolf related. So these are sort of innocuous words that you can use in kind of conversation around regular humans without letting on that you're talking about stuff. Or it might just be other slang words as however they come up. So that's one of the things we'll be doing. The second part of the culture is I'll ask each of you as well for an kind of something that a cultural artifact, I guess, of the pack, something that the pack does, and these are there are some examples I've put in the in the thing there, but you don't have to use these. Those are just in there as suggestions. So I'll just go through quickly the ones that it's got in there that are kind of suggested pack cultural things, which are that you run and hunt together as wolves. You always wait for the alpha to eat first. You use a lot of physical closeness in your sort of communication and interaction with each other, whether that be hugging, falling asleep on each other, ruffling hair, fighting and jumping on each other, that sort of thing. You always look at the floor when admonished by the alpha. You have a particular dress code. There are particular taboos. There are things that you don't do. Not necessarily like those ones aren't necessarily like severe taboos. They're more like it's just like it's a bit kind of it's not what we do. And or some like food rituals, like you might all gather for a communal meal once a week or something like that. The kind of significance of these in game terms of these, obviously, it will establish a bit more flavor to the pack and give you sort of a greater sense of self, of what it is, what being a member of the pack is. But also these work a bit like the heartbeats that you have, whereby if you bring up one of your if you manage to like incorporate some words of some of the slang or some of the cultural behaviors into a scene, again you get to mark some XP for that. So that's kind of the carrot for those. We'll then also create 3 pack traditions. These are specific laws that breaking those laws is kind of antithetical to what the pack stands for. That's the sort of thing that you can get you sort of permanently removed from the pack or worse. And we'll get into that when we talk about moves in a bit more detail. But even to act against that tradition, it requires an effort of will on your part. And there's essentially a role you have to make if you ever want to go against one of the pack traditions. So we will go through those. We will lay those down. I'll have a couple more questions around the culture and the traditions as we go through. Then we'll come back around and do your interpersonal relationships with one another. Looking at the time now, I think what I'll probably do is I'll say that we'll round out the the pack and world creation aspect of this, and then I think I'll probably call it there for the evening rather than try and force the scene, because I think we'll be running up against time a bit anyway. If we go down that route, and I'd rather just have that time to flesh things out a bit without feeling like we're rushing from one thing to the next. So I think that's what we'll do. I'm going to call another quick break. So if you want to start thinking about things that might be cool to add in as cultural touchstones, slang, or as I said, some laws we want to lay down, that would be cool. But as I said, take a break. And again, I'll say same as before, if you want to come back at the top of the hour. And we'll get through this last bit of putting the pack together, bringing you all in. And yeah. So yeah, see you all in a few minutes. Sorry, people's cameras weren't updating on my screen. I think that's everyone back. Are you back, Puckett? Maybe not.
Sorry about that. I'm back.
No worries, not at all. So I was saying, yeah, just people's Bethany's and Kyle's cameras weren't updating on my screen. I saw they come back, but yes, it just was still showing as blank. So I was momentarily confused. But no, welcome back, everyone. And yeah, so yeah, I think we'll go into this this whole pack thing. Yeah, I'm going to start. I'm just going to move those out for the moment.
Would it be throwing you off your game if we started with the pack traditions? Because I've kind of had those rolling around in my head ever since I was looking at who I had to banish from the pack and why.
Yeah, no, that is cool. I'm happy for us to start there. It doesn't make much difference, to be honest. So yeah, I'm happy to start with the traditions.
So since no one took it, what do you all think about banning the playbook, the Howl, and having cannibalism be one of like, prohibition on cannibalism, whether in human or werewolf form, being one of our traditions?
That makes sense.
Yeah,
Like it worked for the Howl, but it creeped us all out.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that sounds good. So we'll call the first tradition. I think you shall not eat the flesh of man or wolf.
And then, since we're talking about werewolves being brought in through bloodline or ritual, or sometimes kind of being like, bitten by a rogue wolf, and you kind of have to train them up and get them into the pack. What do you all think about having a pack tradition be you cannot just run around making werewolves willy-nilly. The pack has to buy into it. The pack has to consent. It has to be a ceremony. We all have to be bought into this, like, basically bringing in a new member of a gang.
Yeah.
I like that, and I see how it could cause a lot of trouble. So, yay.
Works for me.
Excellent. So we will only the pack can create a new werewolf, I think, or may.
At least without dire consequences.
Yeah.
Like this is basically banishment territory. Maybe even we kill you over it if you've done it, if you're a repeat offender type thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was kind of thinking that my character, that Fran, got turned by, or whatever, werewolfed by like some rogue person or something. So like, I mean, some kind of accident or random act or whatever.
That would certainly explain why you're a cub and you're getting the kind of lenience that you are.
If that works, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, maybe like just out of curiosity, how long were you a werewolf before like you met up with somebody from the pack and they were like, oh, I know come here, we'll teach you.
Few weeks maybe.
Cool.
I mean, I have a thought about that. I mean, because, you are looking at being somebody who's in the Northern Soul scene and everything like that. Maybe you met me at one of the dances and I could kind of just smell it on you, like the
Yeah.
newness of everything. And it's like, all right, somebody's running around making werewolves in our territory. We're gonna take you in and help you understand what's going on, but we also need to figure out who the hell is responsible for this.
I was thinking about that, just like accidentally running into one of the packs somewhere. And yeah, the club scene makes sense.
Plus, it lets David mess around with the Northern Soul scene, and
Exactly.
Kind of tickled by that.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. No, I like that. That's cool. That's an interesting and it's a great hook for further adventures. So that's perfect. Cool. And yeah, does anyone have any ideas for a third tradition? We can, and I mean, if you have a couple ideas for a couple more, that's cool as well. Or if like we get into play and you think, oh, actually, it would totally make sense if one of our traditions was, whatever, we can look at adding things in then. But yeah, does anyone have an idea for a third right now?
I have an idea, and I'm not sure whether it's kind of like fits all of these pack building categories. So I don't know which it goes in. But I'm looking at this run and hunt together as wolves, and I think that every full moon we get together and we run and hunt and like party all night. And the idea is that this keeps our like wolf instincts contained, so we're not out there biting random people. So that's why it matters if you show up for this.
Yeah, that's definitely what. So
I
yeah,
love that idea.
That definitely sounds more like a cultural aspect. Is that you have these big like full moon hunts, but we could maybe have a tradition that's about not losing control, and or maintaining balance between.
Maybe it's like from sunup you're human all day till sundown, and then you are wolf from sundown till the next sunup. So it's one full day split in half.
Yeah, that's
during daylight. That's good.
Well, and that would actually tie in with your fixer role, because that becomes really necessary for you to have those connections to deal with stuff that goes down during the day, because we have that. So if something happens during the day, maybe we can't deal with it like we would at night.
So one thing, it would be really hard to do all this this dance club stuff as wolves.
Yeah, no, if that's
just the day part is a hard and fast rule.
If that's maybe during the like the full moon, that kind of comes into effect, almost like a kind of Sabbath, that sort of idea. It's a
but Brian, with what you're getting at, something more like we have to keep our more feral nature contained. We can't get as violent during the day as we might at night.
I mean, the idea was just the balance. Like, it could even be just like at exactly noon to midnight, you have to be human form, and then you go out. I don't know all the details.
Bethany's right. It'd be kind of hard to run clubs or do clubs as a wolf, but I'm also looking at it from the perspective of, we're not really wolves, but we let a little bit of that nature out. Like if, say, a rival promoter starts trying to screw up one of our deals when we run into him at night, we can smack him around a little bit harder than we might during the day. We can be a little bit more intimidating than we would during the day. Is that kind of what you're hinting at?
I mean, I was talking about on this one particular, like the night of the full moon or whatever, not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry, that wasn't clear.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and add that in. I think, like I said, that sounds more like a cultural thing than a specific. Because I said the traditions are more like hard and fast rules.
Yeah,
cool. But I think that I like the remain as human during hours, wolf at night, and keep feral nature in check, balance. but yeah, like I said, I mean, for something like the traditions, we could we could add in something like do not allow yourself to maybe to tie into again the idea of balance, something like never deny your true nature, but never let it take control of you, or something like that.
Well, I guess here's a question: how secret are we?
That's another good one.
Don't turn into a wolf during the daytime might be for other reasons too.
So yeah, I mean, obviously a fairly standard like one that comes into the traditions, it might be something along the lines of, you know, don't let mortals know we exist, sort of thing. You know, which like exactly how we phrase that will obviously say a bit more about the pack. So we could say the tradition could be do not allow, you know, do not transform in front of a human, or do not transform in front of somebody who is not a member of the pack, maybe, or you could take it to the more extreme side and be do not allow anyone who has seen you transform survive, depending on kind of how hardcore you want to go with that idea of secrecy.
I mean, in all honesty, if a human did see us transform, who would honestly believe them? I mean, they would sound like a raving nutter.
They took the wrong drugs, the wrong combination of drugs.
But I think that there is some element there of cleaning up your trail, as it were. You know, like if something like that happens, how do you handle it?
Is it maybe like if the humans find out about you, you're on your own?
That might be a way of kind of framing it a bit more, well, both more and less I've lost the word I'm looking for. Prescriptive, I suppose. Maybe it could be something along the lines of rather than don't let humans know that you're a werewolf. You know, to put it in simplest terms, it could be do not let werewolves find out about the pack. So it's more about, yeah, it's, you know, if an individual human finds out that you can transform into a wolf, that's not great. But the important thing is that you do not let them know that about who else can do it, and at that point it kind of makes it on you to deal with that how you see fit, as long as you don't bring back the trouble to the pack as a whole.
Yeah, because that also creates a lot of opportunities for trouble.
Yeah,
somebody goes a little bit overboard, and suddenly there's a dead body that's torn in like 3 pieces all over the place, and they're scattered all over like a somebody's flat. I mean, that's going to draw some attention.
Yep.
So, but it also seems like that kind of you have to deal with this problem doesn't create rogue werewolves, which also seems like something that we want to avoid doing.
Yeah.
Like and you're talking about having multiple packs. It seems like the pack is a form of security.
Yeah.
You know, because and having these rules and these kind of guardrails on the pack keep the pack safe. That's the entire point of it. So yeah, I kind of like that idea of you have to deal with this, but you have to do it within the rules that are already in play.
Yep.
You can't just bite them and turn them into a werewolf and solve the problem that way unless we all agree on it.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that. Awesome. So we've got those traditions. sort of set up. It said if you want to add any more, that's cool. But we've got kind of the core three, and I think those are a good set that give us some yeah, as I said, give us some leverage and some points on it. I think no, in fact,
I think of one piece of slang.
Yeah, go for it.
Howling. Just getting out of our skulls, tying one on, having a great time, dancing all night. Like, man, I feel wrecked. I was howling last night.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that. Oops.
That seems like one that would actually like someone would pick it up and like it would also become human slang.
Yeah.
Different meaning, which would be great because like
Yep.
you could talk about it in public and nobody would know the difference.
And especially if you're talking about people who are deeply involved, it's a club scene, it's going to become youth slang and damn near nothing flat as people perceive those people as being cool and worth emulating. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's nice. I like that.
Like the guy with the awesome record collection.
Awesome. Cool. So I think Kyle, do you have an idea for either a piece of slang or a sort of cultural thing, intangible or tangible expression?
Not something specific, but I was just thinking it seems like this has been a fairly urban area for a long time now. I don't know, I'd like there to be something to try to like some tradition or custom to try to like cope with being wolves in an area that's urban and doesn't have any native wolves.
Yes, that is very true. That's one very obviously specific thing about being in the UK at this time is that yes, there are no native wolves here. There are no what's it? But yeah, so yeah, exactly. The part of the city you're in, you are towards the edge of the city, but it's the part you're in is still fairly urbanized. There is some like hillside and stuff that you can get out and do here, though it's still a bit there's a lot of pits around. It's still fairly civilized. You've got the M1 motorway just off to the side, which is both convenient but also kind of ruins your chance to go running. Probably the best location for actually really getting away from things is out towards the west in the Peak District, which is like a big national park, lots of hillsides and stuff. So that is it's not far. It's a few miles out. I can literally walk into it from my house. I mean, it's a long walk, but it's a few miles. So that's maybe. Maybe that is like where you I'm just actually maybe so that's probably like where you go like when you're like when you do the big like full moon hunts and stuff, because it is out in the middle of nowhere. But I just wondered if maybe like when you just sort of playing off of that, if maybe when you want to like meet up or have a like an important discussion, not necessarily like with the pack as a whole even, but just with like another wolf, if maybe that you have like a habit of like meeting up in parks or something.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I'll maybe if I put the like important or meaningful conversations take place in parks, as a sort of nod to that, like looking for a bit of the wilderness in a city. Awesome, thank you. And Brian, do you have either a cultural expression or a piece of slang you want to add in for the moment?
I wish I knew what the DJ 1970s DJ slang would be, because we could refer to switching tracks or switching between two different turntables as are transforming. So I don't know, like switching tracks or
I'm trying to think what because that also, again, relevant to our conversation earlier, that was again specifically was a feature of DJing in the clubs at this time. It was when the DJs were starting to do the kind of mixing one record into the next to keep like the constant sound going sort of thing. So you start to see that early turntable culture. So that is a nice shout. But yeah, likewise, I can't think of I don't even know what you'd call it now. Maybe
what are you trying to describe again?
a shifting between human and wolf. We could even, it could just be anything. Like,
to be honest, switching tracks might not be like the correct term that you would use in DJing, but I quite like it as a piece of slang. So I think that's cool. Switching discs, but I think track sounds better.
Yeah, I can't think of anything better.
Yeah, no, I think I like it. I think that's
checking out the B-side.
Oh yeah.
A lot of times particularly at that time, you were still talking about 45 singles. And the A-side was always the single, and the B-side was where they
so just flip to the B-side, and we often abbreviate it to just flipping.
Yeah. Nice. I kind of went out of order because a couple of people have entered, but Bethany, do you have another? Do you have some slang you'd like to add to the list?
So this was the other part of my hunt. We all hunt together on the full moon idea. Is that what is the most boring, innocuous form of gathering that exists? I mean, it's got to sound so boring that no one would even ask, oh, hey, you going to this? Can I come along? No, they don't want to come along. Maybe something like a Bible study or something, just nobody pays it any attention. And it doesn't, that would be how we refer to this particular thing in public. Because for people to stumble on this would be really bad.
Go into the library.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I like that. I'm just thinking if there's another good Oh, I've got an idea, which it is both kind of obviously ironic and innocuous. Feeding the dog, as in I've got to feed the dog.
That's good.
Awesome. Puckett, do you have a sort of cultural thing you'd like to add, or another piece of slang maybe?
I think I have had probably more than my fair share of talking for a little bit. So
Sure.
I'd just like to pass it on to whoever's
No
got an idea.
worries. I'll open it up as a free for all. We could probably do maybe like a couple of other couple of pieces of slang and a couple of just like cultural things. Again, there's that list of stuff down at the bottom there if you want any inspiration from that. Does anyone have any thoughts?
I wonder if maybe we have some sort of tradition, or not the pack tradition, but like some involving other packs. Like, how do we act toward people that we know are werewolves but aren't part of our pack?
Yeah, that sounds good. I guess I'll ask that back to people. Yeah, so what do people? How, I guess so. I suppose maybe I'll focus it down a bit more. How do you kind of, maybe something like, how do you? I don't want to say necessarily defend your territory, because it's not necessarily about that. But how do you kind of size up to somebody who comes onto your territory, and how does that look? What's, is there a particular thing that you do, or do you challenge them to a fight, or do you stare each other down, or how does that look?
I'd suggest that they're not supposed to be on our territory, period. That there are neutral spaces that have been determined beforehand for meetings between alphas of various packs to do whatever business, interpack or intra-pack business they need to do.
Yeah, awesome.
And their little underlings and subordinates should not be on somebody else's territory, and if they are, it's an issue and not a minor one.
Yeah, cool. So I guess then I'll modify the question slightly and say, how does you, or how does another pack let you know that they want to talk, or that they want to meet? Is there like a formalized way of sort of setting up that interaction?
I'm pretty sure that at this point there are telephones.
Yep.
I mean, we're werewolves. We're not in the middle of nowhere in the Stone Age. I mean, we can make phone calls.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That's perfect.
And it's like, hey, we need to meet, we need to talk. And maybe it's, you just have a separate language between alphas for we need to talk. Like, hey, it's been a minute. You want to get a pint?
Yeah.
And that means we're going to meet. Something along those lines. Where if anybody happens to be listening in or overhearing it, like you're calling from a payphone or something like that, nobody's going to think twice of it.
Yeah.
And that also sets up some nice Romeo and Juliet scenarios for you.
Yep. That's cool. Oh, and again, just again, I'm going to add in a piece of another piece of slang. Oops, editing it in the wrong place. Which is the call of the wild, which basically means that there's, you know, another alpha on the phone for you. Awesome.
You know, that actually does bring up a question or a thought, because I'm assuming that there have been cases in the past when werewolves of different packs have fallen in love with each other. What are the cultural traditions around that? I mean, I can't see the packs merging.
I figured, I mean, maybe like, okay, someone joins the other person's pack and maybe like does some kind of favor or provides some kind of gift to like pay their way in.
Yeah.
Right. But if they're joining a pack, that makes the pack they're joining stronger. So wouldn't that go to the pack that's losing a person?
Maybe, yeah. Just, I don't know. If it seems like you'd have to give something to someone.
Maybe the person from, like, say person A is in a pack, person B is in a different pack, person B decides to join person A's pack. Person A has to, like, give the first pack something in exchange
They've got to
for
make
the
it right
person they're
somehow.
taking away. Yeah. Like, I'm stealing your pack member away to my pack. I'm going to do this thing for you, or I'm going to give you this thing.
Yeah, and that's it. That's possibly the point where, like the alpha from the pack where the person would be leaving, you know, if they're broadly in favor, it can be like, oh yeah, you know, bring me a deer, and it's like, cool, it's done. Or it might be, you know, that they might set something that's nearly or actually impossible to do to sort of show the fact that they don't.
John Wick.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, you know, I'm gonna the kind of the you know, the bride price I'm going to charge is something you cannot do because I am not letting this person leave. But yeah, I like that. And I think there's just sort of to tie into this in general. Obviously, if you have somebody who is not in a pack of their own, someone who is like a lone wolf, then if they come into your territory, well, it's not like they've got anyone to back them up, so that can just shake out however you choose. It's, you know. Awesome. I like that. Cool. Does anyone have a last piece of slang they'd like to introduce? Possibly something to just refer to regular humans, or conversely to refer to other wolves that passes in conversation. But otherwise, I think we're probably set on our cultures and traditions.
I kind of like the idea of calling them dogs, like the other wolves, because I think that could pass more easily in public as like your maybe even a light insult of the other person, but like a thing that you could that nobody would really notice and be suspicious of.
Yeah, Yeah, the sort of thing you wouldn't, or well, you wouldn't refer to another werewolf as a dog, like to their face, unless you wanted to insult them. But it's kind of shorthand when you're talking about
Are there social class differences between werewolf packs?
Probably there probably are some, depending on exactly where they are from, and where how they interact. I think not necessarily as a hard and fast thing, but I think that absolutely some packs are very much some packs are very much like like a single social strata or whatever. Like you probably up in the Scottish Highlands, you probably have some kind of like old clan family type things going on, and some slightly more aristocratic packs, but I think it's probably more influenced by local demographics rather than specific things. So obviously each pack will have slightly different traditions of their own, so they may some of them, like I said, some of the packs possibly are more focused around only allowing members of a particular bloodline, and by extension those ones will tend to be a bit more homogenous, certainly in terms of their membership.
Inbred.
That's another way of putting it, certainly.
Because with what Bethany was mentioning about dogs, I mean, it seems like that would probably really come into play for talking about a pack of a lower social class, like a more working class pack or something along those lines.
Yeah,
because I mean, I'm assuming that not all werewolf packs are fabulously wealthy. I mean, ours certainly doesn't seem to be.
No, and again, there will be some variance between them.
And I mean, maybe we get called dogs for precisely that reason.
Yeah.
Is there something we can call the rich packs, like foxes or fancy foxes?
Poodles?
Poodles.
I like poodles, yeah. So I'm going to call that sort of either fancier, or those with less like connection to like the wild, as it were. I like the terms being kind of a bit mutable. That sort of like why you're referring to somebody in any particular circumstance, but yeah. Awesome. Cool. So we are we will loop back around. Actually, first, I will ask a couple of questions are based on the traditions specifically, and then we will go back through and do your pack questions, and that will wrap us up. I'm glad I did. I didn't know we would take quite this long on this section, but I'm glad we did because it's been good fun. So with the traditions, there are a couple of questions here, a couple of leading questions. So the first one is an NPC pack member, probably not one of the ones we've established already, because those are kind of assumed to still be in the pack. But there is an NPC who has been banished for violating one of the traditions. So who was that, and what happened, and what sort of tradition did they break by doing that?
Like I said, this is one that I've been thinking about for a while.
Yeah.
Steve Smith. He, the previous alpha kicked him out because he was found eating another werewolf's heart.
Awesome.
And then, if I remember correctly, yeah. So my question is, who did you banish from the pack, and what reason did you give? Steve tried to come back when he heard that when he heard that Logan had died, thinking that perhaps the regime change would have changed his position.
Yep.
And it did not.
No.
And in fact, I attacked him and scarred him up pretty badly. You know, he's been seen around the edges of our territory very infrequently. Whenever he's spotted another pack member, he's just run. But somebody thinks that I was too harsh on him. And I mean, I don't know how you could be too harsh on a cannibal, but you know.
Yes. So which one of you is interested in thinking that Alpha went too far in that? Whether that be because you either don't think that the cannibalism was all that serious, or possibly you just liked Steve and...
Or maybe you thought that I didn't need to go as far as I did.
Or maybe that he had a really good reason for it. I don't know what that would be, but...
It occurs to me that I may have set up somebody so despicable that nobody wants to actually take that on. So maybe thinking of a different tradition is in order.
I mean,
it is possible for us to lose control of ourselves, in which case they could have had an excuse. Maybe they, a permanent banning. I don't know.
So maybe there was more to the story.
Yeah, there could be more to it.
And all we heard was he ate a wolf's heart, not necessarily what led up to it.
So are you going with the idea of the howl, like eating another's flesh to learn? Let me see. Basically, to communicate with their ghost.
I mean, yeah, it probably could either be that, or it could, like I said, it could have been that they just lost control in the moment. And I think maybe I do like it because I do like it if maybe, well, perhaps the person who thinks that the alpha went too far actually knows what happened. Perhaps they don't. But I like the fact that maybe no one does really know exactly what happened. And so this is less about maybe it's less about the fact that they were banned in the first place, but the fact that that our current alpha, that Garrett didn't listen to them when they came back, and that's more the thing that you think is out of line. That maybe someone thinks that like they should have been given a second chance, or at least a hearing.
Or maybe we just think maybe they have something important to say, and it was maybe they came back saying like, you need to listen to me, I have something, and weren't even given a chance to talk. And it's like, well, maybe they do know something we need to know.
I mean, one way to approach it is that we don't know about the Howl playbook. We don't know that those abilities are possible. So it's almost like They came back as kind of like a mystic or a seer. But we just don't know about that stuff because there's been this cultural taboo for so long. And somehow that taboo was broken and they learned something. And, well, we relied on the taboo. Or at least, I should say, instead of saying we, I should say Logan and I.
I'm also happy for us to like revisit exactly, rather than putting someone on the spot right now. We can revisit these in a moment once we've gone through everybody's questions, and see then when you have a clear idea of who if you think that might be you, as it were. So I'll shelve that one for the moment, and I'll ask the other question related to the traditions, which is, which one of you has secretly broken a tradition, and what happened? Oh, and the also the follow-up to that is also, and who knows about it and is covering for you, I think. Actually, no, so that might be the specific one for the so yeah, no, that will do for now. Just yeah, which one of you has broken one of those traditions, and see in secret, they should say. We may also go back onto this with Bethany.
If one of our pack members turned Fran into a werewolf, that answers both of those questions somehow.
How would it? Well, I guess it could still be a secret, and Fran could be the person who knows and isn't telling.
Yeah.
Don't think I was here when Fran was first transformed into a werewolf, so probably not me. Or I guess I could have still been in the area, but
Yeah, it's certainly up to you.
part of the pack.
Yeah, it's certainly up to you. If you, I mean, let me put it this way: if you want that, if you want to have done that, then you absolutely can. I'm happy. I'm happy with that. Like I said, you can either just have not actually made your presence known to the pack yet, or we don't have to have you. We don't have to do your first day back. That's not by no means a requirement. So,
okay. So there's if in werewolf mythology, there's occasionally the idea that turning someone into a werewolf will heal them from near mortal wounds. Bethany, you see exactly where I'm going with this already.
I do, and it makes sense. Yeah. Fran, what happened to you that put you in the hospital with near mortal wounds?
We could just do something simple like a car accident or something. Or, hell, maybe I took a bad batch of amphetamines or something. And
Bad batch of amphetamines certainly fits with the club stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good.
And I knew you were a friend of, I forgot his name already, Puckett's character.
Garrett.
Yeah, Garrett. So, like, what the hell? I want to save your life. I'll bite you.
Yeah, maybe there's that, that element of like, oh, well, I'm sure the pack would be happy if they knew about this. So, it's not a real problem. Yeah. No, that's cool. I like that. Perfect. So yes, we will now revisit the pack-mate questions quickly. So I will just quickly go back to yourself first, Brian, if that's okay. Are you still cool with the reason you gave for wanting to leave the pack and the person who can keep you to stay? Do those still stand, do you think, or do you want to?
Yeah, I think those all still make sense.
I thought so as well. That makes sense to me. So we've got Puckett's question sitting out there if someone wants to leap on that in a moment, or now if you want. But in the meantime, Joe, let's see what your question is and who thinks they want to go for this.
Yeah, which packmate did it hurt you the most to leave behind, and how did they feel about your return? This might be Jax. It wouldn't be Fran because she just became a werewolf thanks to me. If I bid her as kind of a favor to Garrett, maybe it's Garrett.
Yeah.
That kind of makes more sense, I think.
And you left before Garrett was was alpha, so yeah. Yep.
But he was the fixer at the time, right? So he was in the pack. I left, and then meanwhile, while I was gone, he became the alpha.
Yeah.
I mean, what with you being a nurse and a healer, you might not have liked some of the stuff that I was doing as a fixer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what you were up to as a fixer, but it could have been things that sent people to me way too often.
And I guess the because you mentioned this before, obviously we know you've secretly broken the tradition about not creating new werewolves, but what was the thing that got you banished by the previous alpha? And this doesn't have to be this doesn't necessarily have to be one of the big pack traditions. This might be something more, more of a
Was the Prodigal actually banished though?
I think
they don't have to be, but that was my idea. Although I don't,
Okay.
don't have to go with it.
It might have been more of a let's say you are forever more banished and do not darken this doorstep again, more just to kind of get out and come back when you've learned your lesson, sort of infringement sort of thing, rather than
maybe I let humans not learn of the pack, but maybe maybe somebody knows about me specifically, maybe not the pack.
Yeah.
And I was told to stay away so as not to draw attention.
Yep. Yeah, though that sounds good. Do you have an idea of who that might be?
I think someone powerful enough that they would be believed, or respected enough that they would be believed. And maybe they're still out there, and maybe they still have this as blackmail material if they want,
Maybe it's someone like the local GP, the local doctor. So someone that you worked with them, or something like that while you were in training, and yeah, and because they're a doctor, it's like someone might actually believe them,
give them their word a little extra weight.
But it's also probably not someone that you'd be all that happy about just
right,
killing and dumping in the hillside.
Yeah, I think it's someone that I also respect.
Yeah. So I'm going to call that We'll call that Dr. Wahid Khan. He is the local GP essentially for the village in the little clinic.
That's why I work at the big hospital now.
Yeah.
Like, have to commute longer, but don't actually work for someone who knows I'm a werewolf. So
awesome. Cool. Oh, and yes, the second question. Sorry, on I got down a digression there. The second question on the for your packmate thing is so this one is obviously for Puckett. How does Garrett feel about Joe's return?
Conflicted, because on the one hand, having been a fixer, I know how handy it is to have somebody who can stitch us up around, because quite frankly, trying to stitch up one arm with the other was kind of messy, and I couldn't really tell anybody else how to do it. So it's kind of nice to have Joe back, but at the same time, I know why she left, and I know that she hasn't resolved the situation in a way that Logan would have considered it resolved. And I also think that perhaps the reason he's more tolerant of it is because he's giving Joe some special treatment in a way. So and that may cause intrapack dynamics issues, or somebody may kind of pick up on that, like, why is it okay that she's coming back when she hasn't really dealt with this? And Logan's not going to have an answer that, or not Logan, but Garrett's not really going to have an answer that probably anybody would consider satisfactory.
Yeah, sure thing. That sounds good. So I will go finally to Fran, and if you want to ask or tell us what your question is, and
Sorry, who were you asking?
oh, so that's for you, Carl, for Fran.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Yes, so if you want to
which packmate do you hero worship? What could they do to break that trust? I think it's Joe, because she hasn't been around for most of the time I've been in the pack, so I've just heard secondhand stories, and I think she's like a cool rebel out there doing her own thing and stuff.
Awesome. And what could she do to break your trust?
I guess the easy answer would be to find out that she's the one who turned me, but she also kind of saved my life, so that doesn't seem right. See her really betray the pack in a way that matters, like not these traditions and rules that aren't personal to me, but something that really directly hurts them.
Yep. Cool. That's brilliant. Yep. And so yeah, Joe will take a tie on Fran for that. And yeah, finally, who resents Garrett's decision to banish Steve?
I'm happy to resent it if no one else wants to.
Like I said, I could pick another taboo that somebody broke. Because it's kind of hard to resent a cannibal. Somebody for
but the idea that I wanted you to at least hear them out, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's cool. So yes, Jax, you will get a tie on Garrett. And that, I think, is us done with that. Awesome. So yeah, that's us right up to time. So yeah, I will stop us there. So thank you very much, everyone. It was great fun. I know obviously we spent a lot of time in character and world creation, but hopefully it will pay dividends next time. And I enjoyed it anyway. I do like this bit again. I do apologize if it was a bit long for some of you to spend in this. I know it's not everyone's favorite thing, but it said we've got a lot of grist for the mill for next time now, so that's good. So yeah, I will stop the recording there. So thank you very much, everyone, and if you have been watching this, then well, good on you for putting up with all that.